So, we all know coral reefs, these incredible, vibrant cities under the sea, are in some serious trouble. But what if I told you that some of them have a secret weapon, a hidden ally, a microscopic bodyguard that's helping them fight back against the heat? The question is, how does this tiny alliance actually work?
You've seen the headlines, right? Our oceans are getting warmer and warmer, and for corals, this is a full-blown crisis. This extreme heat forces them to kick out the tiny algae living inside their tissues, and when that happens, they turn ghostly white. It's that devastating process we call bleaching, basically a global fever that's threatening entire ecosystems.
But here's where it gets interesting. In some of the hottest seas on the entire planet, some corals are somehow surviving. They're hanging on, even thriving, in conditions that should be completely lethal. It's almost like they have a secret ally working from the inside. So what on earth is it?
Okay, so to crack this case, we've got to start by looking at how a coral actually experiences this fever. And more importantly, what scientists discovered when they decided to take a much, much closer look.
If you want to find the toughest corals in the world, you have to go to the most extreme place you can find, the Arabian Gulf. I mean, the water temperature here can hit a jaw-dropping 36 degrees Celsius. So the thinking was, if any coral has figured out a way to beat the heat, it's going to be here. It's the perfect natural laboratory.
So here's what the researchers did. They tracked these corals right through a brutally hot summer. They took samples in June, when things were just starting to heat up. Then they took more in August at the absolute peak of the heat stress. And finally, they sampled again in October when the water had cooled back down. This timeline gave them this perfect play-by-play of what's happening inside a coral as it literally fights for its life.
And this is where the story gets really interesting. Because when the scientists analyzed those samples from the peak of the August heat wave, they found something that it didn't make any sense at all. They'd stumbled onto a hormonal mystery.
You'd think, right, that under that kind of intense stress, a coral's internal systems would just start to break down and fall apart. But instead, something totally bizarre happened. The coral's whole chemical profile became a contradiction, a biological puzzle that pointed to some kind of outside help.
Okay, check this out, because this is the absolute core of the mystery. The raw materials, the building blocks that corals use to make steroid hormones like testosterone and progesterone, they had completely bottomed out, almost gone. And yet, at the exact same time, the levels of the finished hormones themselves were through the roof.
So this was the million-dollar question. How is this possible? It's like finding a car factory that's turning out hundreds of finished cars, but when you look inside, there's no steel, no rubber, no glass on the assembly line. The parts just aren't there. So where were these vital stress-fighting hormones coming from?
It was clear the coral itself couldn't be the source, so the investigation had to pivot. The scientists turned their attention to the coral's millions of microscopic residents, its microbiome. It was time to profile every potential suspect living inside.
Now, to get this, you have to stop thinking of a coral as just one animal. It's actually a holobiont. Think of it like a bustling city. You've got the coral animal itself. That's the buildings. You've got its famous algae partners. They're the power plant. And then you have this whole universe of bacteria and other microbes, the residents. The culprit had to be in this lineup somewhere.
And when they took a census of all the bacteria in a healthy coral, one group just leaped off the page. A type of bacteria called Endozoicomonas was totally dominating the community, making up a whopping 60% of the entire microbiome. This wasn't just a minor character, this was the star of the show.
And the evidence just kept getting stronger, because when they looked at sick, diseased corals, they found the population of Endozoicomonas had totally crashed, dropping from that dominant 60% all the way down to just over 1%. Its presence was undeniably linked to the coral's health.
With a connection that strong, the investigation suddenly had its prime suspect. All eyes, all the attention turned to Endozoicomonas. The next step? They had to find some definitive proof.
To get that proof, they turned to genetics. You can think of it like using a forensic tool at a crime scene. They sequenced all the DNA they could find in the entire holobiont to see which member, the coral, the algae, or one of the bacteria, actually had the genetic blueprints for making these specific hormones.
And what they found was just crystal clear. The coral and the algae, yeah, they had some of the genetic tools, but not the whole set. Only one member of the entire community,
Our prime suspect, Endozoicomonas, had the complete genetic toolkit to handle the entire production line, from processing the raw materials to producing the final testosterone and progesterone.
Okay, so they had the motive, keeping its home, the coral, alive and healthy. They had the means, the complete set of genes to do the job. Now they just needed to catch the suspect in the act. And that meant one final experiment to get the smoking gun.
The experiment itself was beautiful in its simplicity. First, they isolated Endozoicomonas and grew it all by itself in the lab. Then, they fed it cholesterol, which is a common building block for these hormones. Next, they applied the pressure. They cranked the heat up to that stressful 34 degrees. And the result? Bingo. The bacteria started pumping out the exact hormones they were looking for, testosterone and progesterone. Case closed.
So think about what this means. This bacterium isn't just a freeloader just hanging out. No, it's acting like a tiny, on-demand pharmacy. It senses when its host, the coral, is in trouble, and it starts manufacturing a prescription for stress relief right then and there.
So this is a really cool biological detective story, for sure. But it's also so much more than that. This discovery, this partnership, it has huge implications for how we understand life, stress, and even survival in our rapidly changing world.
So why is the bacteria doing this? Well, these hormones are like a shot of adrenaline for the coral's immune system, getting it primed and ready to fight. They can also stop harmful bacteria from invading when the coral is weak and vulnerable. This is a brand new survival mechanism we never even knew existed. It's a true symbiotic superpower.
And this really changes the whole picture, doesn't it? It means a coral isn't just a single animal struggling alone against rising temperatures. It's a superorganism. It's an entire team working together, where every single member, right down to the tiniest microbe, is playing a critical role in the fight to survive.
And that discovery just leaves you wondering, doesn't it? If a single bacterium can act as a hormone factory for a coral, what other incredible secrets are microbes keeping for their hosts all across the tree of life? Maybe even the ones living inside of us.